There is no denying that Ange Postecoglou has had an incredibly tough year as Tottenham head coach, but for the vast majority of supporters who have already turned against him because of how results have gone in the Premier League and elsewhere this term, to do what he did against Chelsea has probably just alienated himself from the minority of the fan base, myself included, that was still willing to stick behind him. Tottenham sit joint 16th in the Premier League table. They've had 16 losses in the Premier League across the season. The worst run of form that we've seen at the club since, I think, the 1990s. But yet there were people like myself who were willing to back him and support him and have always had that viewpoint and that sort of motivation to finally stick behind a project and a rebuild. But for those of you that didn't see what happened in the 1-0 loss to Chelsea on Thursday night, Tottenham scored a goal that was eventually ruled out for offside due to Pat Matasar fouling, I think it was Caicedo, in the build-up. And when Tottenham initially scored and the goal went in to bring the game level at 1-1, instead of celebrating or rallying his players, Ange Postecoglou did a 90-degree turn and he cupped his ears and waved at the Tottenham supporters. And I sat there, and when I looked at it and I heard about it and I saw it, I was stunned. I was completely stunned. And yes, Ange Postecoglou has been getting pelters from many, many fans over the last few weeks. We saw after the Fulham game, he bit back. There have been multiple instances where he sort of reacted to things that have been said from fans in the crowd. And this kind of is the icing on the cake, where he's probably gone too far, if I'm being totally honest with you. The fans are the heart and soul of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and they are hurting. We are all hurting because of how results have gone and how we have been on and off the pitch, to be honest. The lack of leaders, the lack of cohesion, the lack of planning, the lack of anything, really. And yet, week in, week out, fans will pay their hard-earned money to come and watch and support the team. We have one of the best sets of away fans in the top flight, undoubtedly, without question. So to turn on them like that and, sort of take the piss out of them, I don't know what he was doing. I really, really don't. And what makes it worse is the fact that after the game, he seemed to try and pretend like he didn't mean it in that sense. He tried to play it off as if he was trying to hype the crowd up, get them cheering, but there's no doubt after watching the video back that he was sort of clapping back at them saying, yeah, I know better than you. That was the vibe that I think everybody gets from the sort of cupping of the ears and sort of like, oh yeah, now what, my substitution scored. And I think that is in turn what led to him to have such a rant about VAR after the game, saying how it's killing the game. All the usual stuff. A lot of people like to file that one under the endless list of excuses that Ange has used this season. But for me and my perspective, as someone who has been behind Ange from the very beginning, since he was appointed, until probably very, very recently, it kind of serves as a point to me as it's just like, what's the point after watching that? I think it's very, very clear that there's a huge divide between the manager and the fans. The players on the pitch look like they're not arsed. They don't look like they're playing for anything at all. And I know the Europa League is the primary focus, and I've talked about that 1,000,001 times, but Ange Postecoglou's always been someone who has been straight talking, doesn't like to sugarcoat or lie about things. And he always backs up his actions, and he's not done any of that. And it was so out of character for him to have a go at the Spurs fans like that. And I think that proves to all of us that he is feeling the pressure, and he knows that he ultimately is probably on borrowed time at the club. I think the only thing that saves him now from getting sacked is if we win the Europa League. Obviously, that guarantees Champions League football. It ends our very long trophy drought. And I think that would be the only thing that buys him more time. But I'm just so torn. I'm so torn because those of you that watch my videos regularly will know I've said from the very beginning, with the injury crisis that we've had this season, I'm not going to judge Ange Postecoglou until we've got that core back in our team. The majority of our best players back on the pitch. And the thing is, we have that now, and we still don't look like a team with any sort of identity, any sort of plan. I know we're missing Dan Kulusevski, who of course is one of our best players, but Mickey van der Ven and Romero are together at the back. Bergvall, who's been our best midfielder, is playing regularly. James Maddison, Heung-min Son. But I just think there's a lot of wrong decisions happening. We are supposed to be an attacking football team, and we didn't have a shot at Chelsea's goal on Thursday night until midway through the second half. They dominated us. Let's be honest, they had us at arm's reach for the entire game. And on another night, they probably score 4 or 5 goals. And that's the main concern. Ange has always been, we'll score more goals than we concede. But our issue is we're not scoring enough goals now. And that's the problem. I think a lot of people were frustrated with some of the team choices. I think Heung-min Son, our captain, has been such a passenger this season, and I really hate making videos like this because all I want to do is get behind the manager, and I want to be positive about the team. I want to focus on that quarter-final in the Europa League, dress it up as the fact that we still have something to play for. But I think, unfortunately, the reality of the situation is, whether it's Ange Postecoglou in charge, whether it's Matt Wells in charge, whether it's Ryan Mason in charge, Tottenham are not going to win the Europa League, or they have a very slim chance of doing it. I think we're in for a very big shock when we play Frankfurt next week, and that's the big issue for me, because we've just had the international break. We've had 3 weeks nearly without a game because of the FA Cup that came straight back in afterwards to figure things out, to get back on the right track, and we still look just as poor as we did before the international break, and that's where my sort of qualms and my issues come into play. And Ange, for me, I've always been a bit sort of like on the side when it comes to his personality and how he engages with the fan base. But the way he's coming across at the moment is that he dislikes the fans, that he doesn't like them, he doesn't get on with them, and he wants to prove them wrong just to be able to say, I told you so. And that really doesn't sit right with me. As I mentioned at the start of this video, the fans are the heart and soul of this football club, and all we want, whether we're divided on Ange, whether we're together on him, is to see the team win. And unfortunately, Tottenham Hotspur are on track to lose 20 games in the Premier League this season. We have 34 points after 30 games in the 24-25 campaign, it's unforgivable. If we're being honest with ourselves, it's unforgivable. And look, if Ange can manage to get us through the Frankfurt tie in the Europa League, I will throw all of my support behind him, because I want to do that more than anything. I'm not completely flip-flopping on things. I'm not doing a complete U-turn on my opinion on Ange Postecoglou. I've always said I want to give him a sufficient amount of time to succeed, but it's going beyond the measures of what's actually happening on the football pitch now. It's a toxic relationship between the fans and the manager, and that's only ever going to end up one way. And it's actually pretty clever from Daniel Levy. There's the protest coming up on Sunday against Southampton, against the board, against the owners, and I just feel like he's hanging on to Ange because he knows that the manager is going to take the forefront of the stick from the fans who are so angry about things, and it deflects the blame off of him a little bit, which is why I think he's so adamant on keeping Ange until the summer. He can sack him then, and then there's no games for Spurs to play, so it sort of goes under the radar. Everybody's a bit switched off from football in general. It's a mess, guys. It's a real mess. And I just think what Ange did on the sidelines yesterday, after we scored, in what should be a moment of jubilation, of celebration, just made things 10 times worse. And I do think him doing that is probably the breaking point for a lot of fans. And I'm very much on the fence now. I don't think I'm going to sit here and say I'm staunchly Ange out, because the alternatives until the end of the season are Wells or Mason in charge as an interim manager, and I just don't think that gives us a better chance of winning the Europa League. And that's just my opinion. I know people will disagree with me on that. It's just, it's so painful. It really upsets me, and my motivation to make Spurs content at the moment is at an all-time low. I've done 2 videos now, including this one after the international break, and it's taken a lot of effort to set the camera up and actually do it. But that Chelsea game was just, we had chances, and I think the main point coming out of that game for me is that Chelsea aren't very good, but they were still a lot better than us, and that's the damning thing about it, and that's kind of what sums up our season. Even against the teams that aren't very good, we've made them look good. You know, there was a ball in the first minute from their centre-back, and he just pinged it diagonally over the top of our entire team, and Chelsea should have scored from it. And it's clear to me that even with our strongest players on the pitch, we are starting to see fundamental flaws in how we set up. There was so much room in the middle of the park because we don't have a traditional proper number 6 in the team. We have so many passengers in the side. You know, yesterday, Son should have been hooked at half time, if we're being honest. Give Matthias Tell the run out that he deserves. He played really well over the international break for the France under-21s team. Solanke is not good enough in the box, in my opinion. Yes, his running stats are brilliant, but he's not got that quality that we've been so used to with Harry Kane up front. And there's just so much missing. When Maddison's not involved in the game, we create barely anything. And it's just, it's frustrating, guys. I mean, I'm going to the Southampton game on Sunday, so I may do sort of like a little mini vlog and try and get some bits of the protest on camera to show to you guys to see how it goes. But I think the likelihood is we're going to rest a lot of our key players for the Frankfurt game on Thursday. Although Ange has to be careful, because if we lose to Southampton at home on Sunday, there are no arguments left to suggest that he should still be in the job, because Southampton are one of the worst teams in the Premier League over the last decade, I would say, in terms of how they play and the points that they've picked up. So, just an utter mess from start to finish. The Chelsea performance, probably what we all expected. Doesn't give us much hope for the Southampton game, which is crazy considering they're bottom of the league. And then Frankfurt the week after that. Really, really tough to see a positive outcome in that. And then just Ange making things a lot harder for himself, a lot worse for himself, blaming it on the fact that he's out of touch, doesn't really understand how people will take offence to that, going down the old school line of things. And it's all just a bit rubbish. And I'm really sorry that this is a really negative video, but I mean, if you guys let me know down in the comments what I can be positive about. I mean, when I do record the preview for this Frankfurt first leg next week, I will be positive about it because I have to be. First leg, at home, quarter-final in a European competition. Anything can happen at the end of the day, and I do think we can win. Whether we will is a completely different question. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's see what happens on Sunday, because it could be a big old mess. I'll see you guys at the stadium. If you're out and about and you walk past me or whatever, feel free to say hello. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. It's getting to summer. It's 19 degrees today. It's lovely. It's been down the driving range. Nice bit of therapy. Swinging some clubs at a golf ball for a couple of hours. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you guys are new around here. I appreciate it every single time I ask, of course. I will see you in the next one. As always, come on, you Spurs.